It's a time-honored tradition, passed down from generations. And even though we don't know what tomorrow holds, we can do our part today to ensure the future of elk, other wildlife, their habitat, and our hunting heritage. Join today and help us ensure the future.
Well, welcome to episode number 32 of According to Flint as we work our way through the PBR season, heading into the PBR World Finals as we record this podcast. Happy to have with me, he's a 10-time PBR World Finalist, bull owner, TV personality, Leanne's husband. Is it true? Or were you the 1994 PBR Rookie of the Year? Is that right?
There wasn't no rookie in 94. It's 95.
95.
And I went to 13 finals.
13. Okay, see, I Googled somebody and they were wrong. But one place I went, JW, said you were the 2002 world champion. So you might go with that one too.
I wish they'd send me my buckle.
Your buckle and your now it's $1 million. What the hell?
Yeah.
So
wouldn't have been $1 million back then. It was the year before they started giving the $1 million.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, no, I didn't win the world. I won the world finals. I get that all the time. World champ. This guy's world champion. I'm like, that'd be my little brother.
Hey, yeah. But hey, I don't think we do. Sometimes I do want to go to our in-arena announcers who do a great job. Don't get me wrong, where they'll say he was the PBR World Finals champion. I think that needs to be clarified a bit. I don't know that we always do a real good job. I think the lay person in the crowd, when you say PBR World Finals champion, you know, Marco Iguchi was, I think Ryan Dirty.
Yeah.
That's not the world champion. That's confusing to people, I think. So,
nah, well,
whatever. We
not to us, so
everything's
really into it.
Okay.
As long as they say champion and not chump, I'm all right with whatever they call me.
13-time PBR World Finalist. There you go.
Yeah.
We talked last week. I mentioned it to you out on the street. We both made some comment about getting old. And it was years ago, and I brought this up to you that somebody said how old you were. And I said, is that all the older JW Hart is? And Cody Lambert stepped in and he said, hell, he's been around making a living at this since he is 14. You've been around a long time. When do you think that age was that you can say being a bull rider is what paid all my bills?
14, 15.
Really?
Probably, yeah, 14, 15. I went to, I didn't go to no high school rodeos because they didn't pay no money hardly. I mean, you get on around here, you get on the same bulls at the high school rodeos that you would at the open rodeos and the open bull riding thing. So, the open bull ridings and little rodeos pay $700, $800, maybe $1,000 to the winner. And I could ride the same bulls at the high school rodeo and win 125.
Right.
So it didn't make sense to me. So I went to the rodeos.
So you never had a high school rodeo experience, went to the nationals, all that college rodeo, none of that.
No.
Was it a family deal? I can ask you this because I don't know. Did you feel like you were riding bulls? Was there pressure to support your family a little bit? I mean, what was your situation there? I don't mean that to be crap.
No, I'm. You know what? I'm pretty proud of it, actually.
Yeah.
It's been brought up, and some people try to bring it up as like I was doing something that I shouldn't have been doing as a kid. You know, my parents should have been this or should have been that. But when the oil field, my dad was big in the oil field, so when the oil boom crashed, we crashed really, and it went bad for I don't remember how many years there, but it was pretty thin around our place. So I missed a lot of school to go hunting to help feed the family. We lived without electricity for a couple of years. So naturally, when I got old enough to ride bulls and then make $700-800 a weekend or $2,000 a weekend, yeah, it helped. It helped survival mode, really.
Yeah. Is that I watch different guys, and I bring it up a lot in interviews with guys who become dads. You know, you see young bull riders and they have a new baby. And I always ask them, does that hurt you or help you? Does it put it in perspective? Some guys rise to the occasion with pressure. Some guys fold. You must have been, I mean, you say now you're proud of it. At the time, were you proud of it? Did it make you better, or did you, what do you think?
I don't know. I don't know that I realized it at the time, to be honest with you. I was just riding bulls, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to go, and they let me go. And a lot of times we didn't have money, for my parents to haul me to them rodeos that were 3 hours away or 6 hours away. So I got in a truck as 14, 15-year-old kid, getting in a truck with 20, mid 20s guys. So it's kind of I wouldn't send my when Wasey's 15, I would not send him with a 25-year-old like McBride or myself, or anybody for that matter, to go to rodeos, because the stuff that I was exposed to was crazy. And luckily my dad scared me to death that if I ever done drugs, not only would I get arrested and go to jail for the rest of my life, he'd beat me to death before I got there. So I never worried about when them guys would be in a van and they'd all go to the front and cloud the front. I'd be at the back with my head under a pillow. So,
well, hey, okay, now I can't. Now you've put me that aside. My next thing as you were talking was, do we know any of those 20, 25-year-olds? That stuff aside, was there anybody significant in your life, 2020, that you traveled with that later ended up you rode with, or was a hero of yours? Now I'm curious.
Not that I got in the truck with when I was 14, 15, 16. Everybody knows Rodney Lidgard, hubcap.
Mm-hmm.
I did get to travel with him one time when I was about probably 15 or 16. So that was pretty cool to me, because he was kind of one of the guys that, went to the rodeos and things that you see, and rode with, against Cody and Ty and them guys and Tough. But now when I got 18, me and my little brother did get in a van with Ty, Cody, and Tough, and went to some bull rides one time. And I was just 18. I'm sorry, Cody, because Cody was 18, so I'd have been 20. So
how was that? What was in general, what was the experience of those three turds?
It was pretty cool. Like, I was pretty like at all, because Tough was Tough, Ty was Ty, and Cody was Cody. And we got in the van going to Montgomery or Birmingham maybe. And of course they gambled everything, like dinners, fuel, everything was a gamble. And me and Cody, we didn't have no money. We was new on tour, and first thing we do, we stop at a Denny's going out there. We all order, and they play the numbers game.
Yeah.
Cody loses. Well, if Cody loses, I lose. We just paying, our money was won. So we lost, had to buy all their dinners. Really didn't have money to buy the dinner. We get to the bull ride and do whatever. Well, they give us checks or not cash. So we're coming home, stop at the exact same Denny's, coming home. We gamble, we order, gamble again, I lose. So needless to say, we showed back up in Texas with no money.
What a
check, but we had no cash.
I mean, this sounds harsh, but what a bunch of dicks. I mean, and I can
Well,
see
it was fair and square. We didn't have to play, but our heroes were saying, "You want to gamble?" We're like, "We're gambling."
Ty, I can just hear Ty. Hey, man, you gonna buy? And, oh my gosh, that's funny.
Hey, if they'd have said, "Hey, we're gonna run this van off this cliff. You want to go with us?"
Yeah,
it's got airbags. Let's go.
Hey, do I remember, check me if I'm wrong, I thought of this as you were talking to them about them. Did you have a Lane Frost connection when you were young?
Yeah.
What was it there? It seems like I saw a picture somewhere.
If you went to the back of the story, the first time I ever seen was the 1985 National Finals Rodeo at Kent's Round. And his first guy to make the whistle in that go around. He was 85 points on a bull called Devo. Get that.
Yeah.
So I kind of took a liking to him. Like, this first time I'd ever seen him ride, but I liked it. And junior rodeo with some other guys, Jacobs White and some guys from Atoka and Lane. They're like, we was talking, like, we know that guy. He comes to our house and gets on all the time, and we're friends. And so I'm like, well, I want to meet that guy. So they called my folks one time, and we went up, and he got on some practice bulls. I don't remember where he was going, but we went up and got on some bulls that day, and just kind of hung out and got to meet him, and then got to be pretty decent friends with him. And then later on, I got a pair of chaps from him and wore those for years. Wore them out. I should have put them up, but
you don't have them still.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you do have them.
Yeah, I still got them.
What are they? What do they look like?
They're pink. They're in top of my closet. I can get them, but we'll go to commercial break. I'll get them.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. I mean, that's little did you know, it's, people love anytime, I had Cody Lambert on here a few episodes ago. He beat you too. McBride and him were both on this before you were. So that makes you feel better.
I know where I stand.
Yeah. But it's interesting because Cody, to this day, he'll start telling stories about him and Tough and Lane. There's something about that, and probably from Hollywood and different things. There's something, even myself being in this world, it glues me. It intrigues me.
I'm the same. When I'm around Cody quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and when a story drops about Lane, how he did something funny or did something bad or did something stupid, I just drop and listen. Yeah. And it's a mesmerizing. And it still to this day, like I met him in 86. So I'd have been 11 when I met him. And he passed away, and I think I was 14. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have a lot of time around him, but it was just the magnet that he was, and the influence that he has on, that he still has on Tough Eaterman today, the influence that he still has on Cody today, or Ty or me, and the influence that he has on people that not even alive till 30 years later, or 15, 20 years later. They never met him, never knew him, never seen him, but he still has a impact on people. It's crazy.
It changed the way that society, not just cowboys, but society looks at the rodeo world. I think it completely changed and brought attention to how cowboys operated, how they hopped in a car, drove all night. By the way, the one I found the best was when Lambert said he didn't buck off much. None of them did. But yeah. Cody or Lane wouldn't buck off much. But when he did, they liked it because he'd get so mad he could drive like 9 hours because he was mad. So they just slept. It was like, oh, good. Lane bucked off. We get to sleep.
Bucked off. We all get to sleep tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. And as soon as he'd start getting tired, Cody said he'd look over and go, man, look to me like you just let go. You should have had him. And he'd get mad again, and he'd fall back to sleep, and he'd just drive down the road.
That's one of the best stories, is that he got bucked off of something that never got ridden very much. I don't remember what it was now, but Jim Sharp had just gotten the rig, and he'd asked Jim, so what does it look like happened to me or something? He said, and Jim just as dry and as he ever, it's like he let go. And it just made him so mad. He's like, I'll never talk to that guy again.
Yeah, that's right. I did hear that. Yeah, it looked to me like you just let go. So yeah, and Razor.
That saying has been passed on through generations of bull riders now. That knew that story. Like if Justin asked me what happened, it looked like you let go. And it's funny. Like you just don't express anything, and just looked like you let go. Didn't try hard enough.
It's like a quote from a movie that you forget what movie it came from. It's the Jim Sharp. I have requests a lot. I'll have people say, why don't you have such and such on this podcast? You should get this guy. And, people get Jim Sharp. Well, it wouldn't be very long. Like we'd be like 10. What do you think? People talk about Jim Sharp. Do you think he'd open up? How do you think it would be?
You talked to Justin already, and you talked to Cody already. So this story I would have been the same way. But when we did the last Cowboy Standing with all the students and stuff and reality, whatever show, we'd bring different guys in each week We brought Jerome. We brought Clint Corey, from winners from all different aspects of life, not just bull riding. Mm-hmm. Well, one day we brought Jim in, and he was pretty outspoken. Like when they got in the kind of closed area and when there was cameras on, but he opened up and he simplified some things in his terms and his world of bull riding that even myself and Cody and Justin was like, and Ross even was like, that's crazy. Yeah, that's how you're supposed to ride bulls. And listening to him open up was pretty cool. Is
that why he was so good? Because he made it so, he had simple. His own way of, made it simple, had his own way of looking at it.
And it was, and we all have our own ways, and they might be a little bit out of context of how it takes to ride this kind of bull, but his was perfect, spot on. And it was funny. He's talking about going forward and leaning back on bull riding. And he's like, I always want to lean forward. He said, but when them bulls tried to get me reared way back, he said, I wouldn't let them get me, but right here, I wouldn't let them get me back there. And he didn't. And it was that simple. He said, this is all I would give them. We're talking about some of the rankest bulls in the world, Pacific, Bell, and whatever bulls. And he's like, this is all I'd give them. I wouldn't let them get my arms straight. I'd just give them this much.
And in his mind, it was easy. I mean, that's the answer. It really is the answer. To him, it's just, you just do it. There's no big secret.
It didn't. Deal. Yeah, no, it was simple to him, and that's what it was. I think he's probably the greatest of all time.
That's funny because I tend to, in some form, with JB, Justin, Lambert,
Shivers, Adriano.
Yeah, usually at the end, I'll ask everybody on here. All right, everybody. I don't care if I hear the question answered, but people watching this always want to know, who's the greatest you ever saw? Would you say Jim Sharp? Is he your answer?
It's hard. You got to put him in the top. You got to put him on Mount Rushmore.
The Mount Rushmore.
Justin, Tough, Shivers, JB, Adriano. Make it what you want. You know, them guys are in different eras. Justin didn't have to ride against Donnie Gay.
Right.
Tough didn't have to ride against Shivers at, to a relative extent. JB didn't ride against Jim Sharp. So, and they didn't ride the same bulls.
Right.
The bulls are different today than they were back then. So you got to add that to JB's plaque, and you got to take this off Jim's. But I think Jim would have just hung in his prime, would have hung with anybody, probably been better than anybody. Yeah.
That's what I think. I think probably the consensus with Jim Sharp is, doesn't matter which bulls or which guys, he's right there in any era. That's kind of.
Yeah, he would have rode today's bulls just like he did the best rankest bulls of that day.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I asked JB, I told Lambert this too. I asked JB, who's the best bull rider you ever saw? And he said, you mean like in person, seeing somebody? And he kind of took it as not all time, but the best rider he ever looked at in a moment. You know what his answer was? Lambert. I think Lambert guessed it, or somebody guessed it. He said Brian Cantor. When they were young, he said in the moment when he was healthy, and he said that's the best he ever saw. He said, now it didn't turn out that way because health dictated where his career went. But he said when they were young, he'd never seen anybody ride like that. I thought that was interesting.
That's pretty, but my answer in person, like I seen Adriano ride in person. I seen Chris Shivers ride in person. Mm-hmm. I seen McBride ride in person. I seen Tough Heaton ride in person. I seen Jim Sharp ride in person. Mm-hmm. I seen Donnie a few times, but I was young enough that I wouldn't have been able to distinguish. But those other five, I seen and rode against them. And I seen Troy Dunn ride in person.
Oof.
So.
Yeah, I know, me too. But it's funny when you start naming all the names, because I think I did it one time on one of my deals. It said the Mount Rushmore. So what's Mount Rushmore? 5? Is that 5? Mount Rushmore? Whatever. 4, whatever. I can't. Then you throw in a Troy Dunn. Then it screws with my mind.
Yeah.
And
And a lot of people don't ever even consider Clint Bronger because he was never a world champion.
Best to never win a world title. Yeah.
But there's a Cody Snyder too. It's pretty dadgum salty.
Yeah.
So.
And he will tell you. He'll tell
Yeah, oh yeah.
He might be watching this actually. I love the guy. I like the guy. He tells it like it is, man.
Hey, we coached I think it was World Cup back then. We coached different.
Yeah.
Hey, we got heated a few times. And it just tickled me because I could spin him out pretty quick. It's pretty good.
Well, weird. Yeah. I remember him in Australia at the World Cup, and he'd have
there,
breakfast.
The one in Brazil.
Yeah. He'd
Mexico.
have breakfast with his guys, just like a real coach. He treated them like athletes, I think as it should be. You mentioned,
work out for me, always lost.
Yeah, well, but I've heard other people talk about Cody Snyder and how good he was. And it might've been Lambert telling me at some point, and he had a terrible hand or wrist. You can't even imagine how good he'd have been.
That's
doing that.
And I was young enough that I'd just seen him ride in person, a handful of times, but seen him on video enough and heard Cody talk about the wrist deal too. So,
yeah. You mentioned the different eras of bulls, and it's a topic comes up a lot. And I'm with you. I've been around a while. So I've seen from the mid to late 90s, those bulls. I think even in the last, Jess Lockwood right here, he was on here before you two. Sorry. He says even since in the 4 years or whatever that he's been here, 5 years, that short round bulls have become long round bulls, and the short round bulls, he says even in these 4 or 5 years, it's changed a lot. You agree on that?
Oh yeah. He's right. And here's the thing about their breeding programs of the ABBI and the bucking bull deal is everybody's breeding for futurity calves now. The little yearlings, 2-year-olds, 3-year-old competition calves. And when you see them just marking 96s and really putting up big scores, and then by the time you get them to the bull riding where Cody's hiring them at these bull rides, you don't see them because we build them now, the futurity calves, to be this big and do this. Well, that don't transition into really bucking bulls later. And the bulls that we see today are the calves that didn't really work in the futurity system. It's too big. They did this, they did that, and they got turned out and kicked out. And then by the time they're 4-year-olds, they're fresh. And that's the ones you see show up on tour now.
You could, and we'll keep going on this. You could, if we edited that, you could say that statement about, my girls they don't barrel race as much as they used to, but we'd be at places where there'd be a futurity. People are breeding and training to get a futurity colt where my girls always wanted the rodeo horse that could haul down the road. And those aren't always, rarely are they the same. I never thought of it with bulls.
It's the same way with like I know Justin rides a few cutting horses and with just the ranch horses. The best ranch horses, the reject cutters that didn't work as futurity type horses. So they get kicked out, they mature, they grow up, they stay healthy. And then a cowboy will buy them and turn them into ranch horses, and they're the best ranch horse on the planet, really. Well, those bulls are the same way. We don't burn them up as yearlings and 2-year-olds. They get kicked out, they get to mature the bones, structures and stuff, joints and things. Well, then they show up as 4-year-olds, and they wind up going on to be bushwhackers because bushwhacker was terrible.
Wasn't good. Yeah. So that's a good segue into what you do in the bull business. You go to a lot of our elite events in the PBR. You're around a lot. So is that more your philosophy? It sounds like is more, let's look down the road here and breed down the road. Do your bulls and what you're doing breeding go back to a certain bull? Is there something you like that accomplishes what you're trying to accomplish?
I think HD does this certain ways, and everybody's got their own deal. But we play both. We play the futurity game, and we try to raise bucking bulls, whether they're rodeo or PBR finals, and everything in between. There's got to be a high school bull. There's got to be a futurity calf. There's got to be a 2-year-old futurity, a Derby 3, a Classic 4, and so it's potluck. I mean, we got 90 cows. We'll put 5 different bulls on them. 5 or 6 different bulls on them, and yeah, we'll this bull we want to put in and try to get our futurity type calves. This bull will be our big bucking bulls, and one might be the other one at the end of the day. You don't know, but Secretariat didn't raise no colts either.
Yeah, not much. I mean, in the world of the Kentucky Derby, not a great sire, and they kind of, my family, my dad and brother have a couple grandson and granddaughter of Secretariat. They kind of hoard him out and basically diluted his greatness and his reputation by doing that a little bit. But so I didn't look because it wasn't something, I can't say I don't care. It just wasn't something I wanted to look at yet. They have come out. Cody has put out the PBR World Finals list of bulls, correct? I think I saw that. How many bulls do you get to take?
We got 3 what we call lease bulls. That's the only place they'll show up. But then we have 3 in the Classic finals. So 11 of them will be at the PBR World Finals. So
okay. So as far as drawing into a performance at the World Finals,
11.
Okay.
11. The 3 Classic bulls are in the class, so they kind of go under ABBI's blanket.
Right. Okay.
So
they're on the
11.
night. They're on the night of Classic bulls.
Wednesday night and Saturday.
The night that we dread that because we ride less bulls on the Classic. It's not like it used to be though. It's a little different now.
But why?
I think.
I don't. The guys have.
Good topic. Go ahead.
The guys have just got me confused. They don't like getting on the Classic bulls. Like why? They're young, they're gonna buck, and usually when they're 3-4 years old, they haven't gotten the experience to, when you go to sticking them one direction, to jump out and go the other.
Right.
When they hook it up, they're gone. They're doing it. They're gonna keep fighting until you get off of them. That was when I was riding. That was the one. Hey, if he goes left, once he goes, I just got to go that direction and keep up.
Yeah, because those as they get older. I try to explain that to people. Those older bulls, those guys start setting a trap into their hand and get in there. That bull, you can see him. And I'll be standing in the arena, go, here it comes. Here it comes. You can see him, bam, other way. So young bulls, they don't have that savvy yet.
And one of them guys don't. The last couple of years I rode, they was having the Classics. And I'd go to them Classics and stuff, and I loved it because I knew they was going to buck because somebody paid $1,500 to enter them. And when they turned back, that was where they was going to stay, and I could just kind of tune into that. And
the fine tuning of the breeding and stuff, there was a time I always felt like a Classic night, young bull night, they were unpredictable and they were squirrely, and then they wouldn't leave the arena, and that's not how it is anymore. That's
the problem with our guys today. All the Brazilians, if you're left-handed, you need them to go left. If you're right-handed, you need them to go right. And it's trickled down into the American side of the guys that they think they have to be like that. They got to ride with Brazilian rope, and they ride the way the Brazilians ride. Well, now they're getting one-dimensional. If you're right-handed, you really got to have them go right to stay on them. You got to have them, if you're left, they got to go to the left. And it just confuses the piss out of me that they do that nobody's, Jose's as good as they are either direction. Jess is good either direction. Cooper's good. That's why they're the top of the line.
Yeah.
That's why they're in the top. That's why JRV
and I was going to ask you
not a world champion.
Right. Because he's got it figured out more now. You look at Joao JRV 5 years ago, it was spoken. He couldn't ride anything that turned away from his hand. Little better now, but it still will get him, right?
But he's really worked on it and had to concentrate. and he moves his rope accordingly. If he has one that goes to the left, he'll slide her down there where he likes it. If he knows he's going right, he'll move it up, try to compensate for that direction. Then you're just a guessing game. So if you move it up, he moves his rope up there, and then he goes left. He's screwed going left.
Yeah.
Learn how to ride both directions.
Mm-hmm.
Put your rope in the same spot every time. I don't know. It's confusing to me.
Hey, I know. Listen, I've watched. How many thousands of bulls do you think I've watched? You know, same thing. I'll watch guys and go, you see it. I can see it coming. Like, so who else?
You can't explain it to them. You go to try to break it down and explain it to them. They look like you got 8 eyes. Right? It's pretty simple. If you can't ride one away from your hand, chances are you're not going to be the world champion.
Do they care? Do a lot of
pays good enough now they won't have to.
Yeah. I think it's a good topic. It's a good segue too about you once in a while. You did a couple weeks in Manchester, New Hampshire. You do TV and you do it at the World Finals. I think sports fans in general and players, no matter what level, they don't want to always hear the truth. Do you find that? Like, if you say something on TV, fans will jump on. You can't say that about JB. You can't. I used to get it about Chris Shivers. I used to make fun of Chris Shivers because he looked 12 years old, and some lady jumped me about it. Well, I said, it's true, but you tell the truth. You just explain stuff. You don't have much of a filter, do you?
Well, that's my mama coming out in me, but you know, I don't get the negative deal from the fans much. They like it. They're like, man, we like when you're on there because you tell them. And every now and then you'll get one but it's usually the ones, I guess there's probably a lot of people that don't like it, but they're the ones that want to tell it to you or tell it to somebody else. They won't come tell you to face.
Right. Exactly.
But bull riding, but the bull rider side of it, Cooper's the only one that I can say something about that he don't like, and he'll come say something.
Yeah.
But then we both agreed to look at each other and go, well, this is how I feel, and this is why I feel, and how. And we're like, still pards.
Okay, good talk. Good. Yeah. I can see that. Cooper, I give Cooper credit on that. He does not hide. You always know how Cooper feels, I believe.
And when I've called him out about turning out a reride or turning out a short go or something, and I'm like, he's got to get on. If he don't get on, he's not going to win. If he don't win, he's not going to win a world title. And I got my data to back it up. And then he comes, well, the reason I did this is because this. I'm well, that's fine.
Yeah.
Your thumb's sore, but
you're
you're
right.
not gonna win.
You're not going to win.
You're right. Your thumb's sore, but if you don't get on, you're not going to win. I'm right too. So.
Okay.
All right.
See you tomorrow.
Let's go have hamburger. Yeah. Used to be, let's go get a beer. Now let's go get a hamburger.
When you get ready to do TV, and by the way, I have mentioned this a lot. McBride and I talked about it. Talk about a guy who came from absolutely nowhere near the Western sports world that leads you guys where you need to go. I think glues it all together. Craig Hummer. I mean, I have fans try to come to me and go, we need another cowboy. That Craig Hummer. Nope. Wrong tree. Wrong tree. But he does it. But that's the play-by-play guy's job, is to lead the color man, any sport, to where he helps you, right? Yeah.
And everybody that comes to me personally is like, man, you do a great job. You tell it how it is. And that Hummer. And I'm like, yes. Y'all don't see what he does to get us to that commercial break. You don't see what he does to get us in from a break. And they never cut him off. That, the commercial never cuts him off because he's dead nuts on it.
Yeah.
I said, in these questions, I said, I'm sure maybe there is somewhere in the world someone does his job better than him, or does my job or your job better than we do. But I don't know who it is. Hummer's really good. Really good.
He has been, I always tell any fans that he needs no cowboy hat. Well, nope.
He's not a cowboy.
No, he's
You know
not
how
a
dumb he
cowboy.
is looking at cowboy
Yeah,
hat?
I know. I've thought of that. He'll have boots on. Like he has a pair of boots. I'm like, put your shoes back on, Craig.
Yeah,
Like,
and his breeches are about that big around the top of them.
yeah. But he has been taken in, just the respect he has from the riders. That's what I tell fans. Hey, if the riders all like him, you know he's doing something right.
Behind Pro Bull stats, he's probably got better stats on rider and bull than anybody.
Yeah.
All the stuff he talks about comes out of his computer. He writes down when he shows up at bull riding, the first 40 guys, there's 40 pages. Yeah. And each page is individual to a guy and the matchup he has. If there's been a matchup, if there's not, if it's average scores, the guy comes prepared.
Yeah. Well, so when I do have him, I've talked to him to be on this. I'm going to tell him that you were on before him.
Good.
So let's make it straight.
And anybody that comes on after this, tell them I was on first.
No, I will. Don't worry. Yeah. So speaking of that, when you talk about Craig Hummer showing up, he's the one with the script. He knows when he's got to throw it to commercial. He leads into the videos. And really, I would imagine you're kind of hanging on to that to him to guide you through. But you don't just show up cold. Do you have any? Are you just saying, okay, I'm going to watch here and talk about what I see, or do you come in with certain things, points you want to get across, or are you like me? You're reading the room, saying whatever you're seeing.
Mine's blank when I go in. If there's a handful of bulls in a row that I don't recognize, I may go grab the stock contracts. I don't remember this bull. And then some of them I can't find. When I see them in the chute, I know them, I don't have no notes. When I go in, I'm freelance. It's what I see, and what I see is what you get. I don't know if that's good or bad, but.
Well, no, when I do my job, I'm kind of the same way, because I just think you got to change with the situation. You got to talk about what's in front of you to relate to the people, because they're watching what you're watching. So,
but there's only so many ways you can tell the crowd or the fans that guy was terrible. He let go. He jumped off. It's tough.
Agree.
And still try to make it a professional, like, this is the best you can. We're the best. The PBR is the best. But when you tell them this guy quit, this guy jumped off, this guy looked off, this guy bailed off, this guy didn't try, it's hard to sell it as the best in the world.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of that, you probably don't remember this, but I've never forgotten it, and I've used it a lot. Years ago, I had a radio show, and I remember where I was sitting when I did it was a phone interview with you. You were a guest on my radio show. You might have been sitting there. It was at the WinStar in Oklahoma, and we were talking about you doing TV and talking about the sport in general. And you said, there's lots that goes on in this sport, and it's not all good. And we need to talk about that too. The rodeo world, especially, I'll go like to a rodeo, to the NFR. Every guy that comes out is the greatest guy in the world, a great man, a great husband, and he tries his hard. Oh, he gives it 100%. Don't let him leave empty-handed. Not always true. And I'll never forget, I think, and maybe it's what makes us good. Western sports world, I think we shelter some things. If an NFL guy gets suspended for drugs, he's embarrassed because he gets suspended for drugs. Shh. We don't talk about that stuff.
To this day, and when the PBR was, it was Cowboys made up the board back then. I always advocated for a drug test, drug screening. Now in the bull deal, I'm all about drug testing the bulls, lie detector test. We've started looking at that more. And I don't mean just test the winners, test the field, make it scary. Because I know back the way it used to be in the good old days, there was a bucket of beer in the locker rooms, but not a lot of people messed with it till the bull riding was over, and then they'd have a few beers or whatever. But I've seen over the years some guys get pretty drunk before they went and got on, and I don't think that's good.
I've seen it in the last month.
Yeah, well, I know. But I'm telling you, if I get drunk and I get on and I get hurt, head injury, and I go to the hospital, who's going to tell them that, hey, he's drunk when he got on? They got to take care of you a different way. If you're inebriated when you got a head injury, or they're what they can or can't do to you. So I think there should be regulations on it.
Yeah. I've dealt with where riders have gotten suspended or sent away, and dealt with fans. That's BS that the PBR did that. And I'm like not allowed to say anything. Like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah. If I'm got a bull there that tests hot for steroids, I should be reprimanded. I should be put on a blacklist, and the world should know to not come buy cattle from me, because it may be hot. So,
yeah.
And I'm not saying there's a lot of it out there,
right?
But there's I don't think we're running in a world that we're 100% clean anywhere. Football, baseball, bull riding, doesn't matter. If there's that much money, somebody's going to be trying to get the edge.
Maybe. I have a policy. I've never drank the day, like you said, after, but not before. And so I have people joke to me about it. Man, you ought to drink a few beers. I'll bet you'd be funny. No, I wouldn't. I'd be out of breath, scatterbrained, and say something stupid. And it's not right. It's not. I never want my body to think that's good. Yeah, hell, I do that all the time. I don't need any help. Shit.
Just think how good I'd be on TV if I could have a couple of beers. Over the head in a trash can.
Did your body dictate the end of your career, or were you ready to be done, or both?
It's crazy. I think if my body had felt better, I would have felt different about it. But people's like, you miss it? I really don't. I get to go to bull ridings. I get to jack with these bulls, and I still bump shoulders with the bull riders and contractors, and I get the smell and the feel. And the only thing I really miss, and I said this on some deal that the PBR came did in video here, is put my hand in that bull rope, because that don't hurt. For one, I can put my hand in there, I can grip that rope, and I can put it on that bull's back, and somebody pull it tight. That's when you stuck your hand in a rope and you tied yourself to him. That's when the moment changed, and I miss that, the feel of that rope coming down tight. And I miss that part, but I really don't miss riding. Even when we did the one in Decatur, we got on our bulls for the last time there. It didn't feel the same. It didn't feel the same. I didn't want it to feel the same. It was good to do it. I wanted to do it because Wasey had been wanting me to get on one. Dad, I want to see you ride a bull, and YouTube wasn't doing it for him. And I thought for a year or two before that, I'll get on one in the practice pen around here, for him, and let him see me ride one, or a jump kicker or something. But then the guys from Decatur come up with that concept, and I decided when we all decided to do it, I was going to do different. I was going to get in shape, better shape than I was the last 3 years of my career. I cut 25 pounds. And I thought, if I'm going to do it once, I've got to be that example for my son. That if you're going to do something, you got to do it right. If you're serious enough, you got to get it done. So I'm glad I've done it, but I don't want to do it again.
What is the biggest residual health issue that daily you feel from being a bull rider? Speaking of that.
Well, I got to, when I get up in the morning, I don't just bend over to raise the toilet seat. I squat down to get
it. Do you have bad hips?
Yeah. Hips and low back. That's really about, my neck don't bother me. I broke my neck when I was 18, but it don't bother me. Like, it don't ever hardly give me troubles. Shoulders, never had bad shoulder injuries, but they're little squeaky, you know, catch you when I sleep on them too long, long for too long. But get up in the morning, the hips and the back is what is my problem.
With hips, there's so many groin injuries in bull riding. Does the hips, is that tied to that? Is that all kind of one deal?
I don't know. I tore both my groins at different times. But I did, and I said this about Jose the other day, and Hummer was like, "Oh my God, everything you're saying come to pass in time after the initial half tear of his." I got lucky, and both times I pulled mine, I tore them completely into gone. It was a 4-week rehab, 2 weeks of doing nothing, 2 weeks of stretching, and I never had another problem with them. I've known lots of people that partial tears and things, and they have trouble with them for the rest of their career. Oh. And it leads to protecting that one, just like Jose getting on a practice bull, trying to protect that sore one, tore something in his abdomen.
Yeah.
I talked to Tandy back years and years ago. I was like, well, talking about somebody had part. I said, why don't you just go in there and cut it on like to where it'd be like mine. No, and a lot of people's got the same thing. He said it wasn't the same. You can't do that. Well, I don't understand. If it's not there, it can't be pulled. So go cut them. But I don't know.
Since you are an analyst, so to speak, on TV, and you just brought him up, Jose Vitor Lemmy's been the talk of the year, and me too. I get excited. I'll tell you, this summer when he was riding everything, it really reminded me of back when JB he got on a roll, like the one year he won the world title. And every time, for one, you sit forward. And the other thing is, in your mind, you just know he's going to ride. You just know. Tell me kind of a general feeling, Jose Vitor Lemmy. What are your thoughts on him in general?
I think he's got a shot at being one of the best ever. But to me, to be that Mount Rushmore, you got to have longevity. And to me, he's only of that prime is a couple, 3 years in, 3 or 4 maybe. I mean, and that may be long enough for some, but he's pretty special, really special. He's a specimen. And that's the difference between yesterday and today's bull riders is yesterday, where you talk about Donnie Gay, Lane Frost, Tough Hedeman, them guys, plumb up in even Justin's era and Shivers, wasn't a whole lot of gym time. And now these guys are specimens. They're zero body fat, and they stay in the gym. But I think that also plays into the injury deal. I think they're so finely tuned that injuries come a little easier. They're not as flexible. They're not this or that. And I don't want to throw Lockwood under the bus, but he was medically cleared 2 months ago or so, 2.5 months ago. You're healthy. You can go back to riding. And he's elected not to. That would never happen around our era, our group of guys. I can go back to riding. I'm going. Usually 4 weeks early.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. You brought up Wasey, your son, that he's a baseball player. He's a crocodile roper, a gator roper down in Florida last winter.
Trade. Don't tell him in Florida we roped the gator.
Oh yeah. I mean, he didn't he tried. There, how's that? You were in your house.
The ticket will be worth it.
I know.
It's like having a speeding ticket. It says 200 on it. You hang it on the wall. You get a ticket for harassing alligators in the wild. You hang it on the wall.
Hang it on the wall. Good for weight. Yeah, that was funny. The pond behind the arena. I can't even remember which one it was, but it made me laugh. But earlier when we were getting this figured out, I don't think it would surprise everybody to know that you needed your wife, Leanne, to get all the technology figured out to do this interview. I got a 22-year-old guy over here doing the same thing. She's with your kids, homeschooling. I always knew you, but I think I know, I look at you different when I look at you and Leanne and all those kids.
That scares me. You look at me different now.
Well,
I don't know
it's
if
a,
that's good
I
or
have a,
bad, or how did
I
you
have a,
look at her?
I have a bigger respect for you and the kind of heart you have. All those kids, you got two. I mean, who else gets to have two kids that are 6 months apart in age, right? I mean, so what do you got in that?
I might have something closer than that somewhere.
How many fully adopted and how many
6.
in a pro? They're all fully adopted yours. See, I'm behind.
Yeah, they're all last names Hart. Yeah, it's official. Yeah. And that just happened about about 8 months ago, 7, 8, 6, 8, 7, 8, 9 months ago. I can't remember, but the last 3 are full siblings to Littlefoot.
Okay.
And that I don't know how much we can say or not say, but the parents were not good people, and we had to fight some serious stuff through to get those 3 out of a terrible situation. The terrible list situation for little girls. And I just, but yeah, we love them. They're great. And
yeah,
they're great.
Yeah. Well, I look at you different. I mean, that's the ultimate thing, is be a good dad. You know, my girls, I'd die for them, you know?
Oh yeah.
Well,
Kill for mine.
Yeah. So you can't, your wife, Leanne, great singer for years. We've known her. She sings the best anthem we can have, but man, her heart's in a good place with all those kids, isn't it? You got a good wife, Dub.
Yeah. I hate to brag on her sometimes, but we started trying to have kids maybe on honeymoon night, maybe probably I did. But 4 years we went trying and didn't have no luck. So she's like, I want to think about adoption. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm cool. Woo.
6 of them later.
Yeah. Huh? I'm like, hell, we get 2 more. We can have 8-man football.
Hey, we play 6-man in Montana in some places.
I'm in.
You're good.
I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just, when I said I look at you different, there's a lot of things I've learned about guys that I've kind of traveled with through the years. I look at Cody Lambert different nowadays. You know, he's not as big an asshole as he wants everybody to think he is, you know?
That's correct. Yeah.
Sometimes
he can sure be, but it's a game to him. That's what's funny. It's like, he'll talk to you one way and then walk around the corner and just snicker and laugh and think it was funny. And so, hey, me and that guy has been at each other's throats before and then go eat lunch together. So
yeah, he's tried the chew me out in the arena before. Listen, and I've walked up to him
and he's got that,
and he got
weird finger.
Got that weird finger. Like he'll buck a bull when I'm in the middle of like a promotion sponsor deal. And I'll walk up and say, listen, you know, I'm doing this. And he'll jump back at me and I'll walk away. I'll walk up there the next commercial and you go, did I do that right, Flint? And he'll giggle like, damn it. Yeah, it's a game.
Hey, I run the shoots at the finals one year. And I don't know what now. It was like a Thursday night or Friday night, whatever. And I run the shoots and he come at that night afterwards. He's like, you should run this performance. He was in the truck doing replays. He was a replay judge. So he had to stay in the truck. And he chewed me out. Like, this bull ride's got to go off faster. You took too long. And I was like, hey, whoa. All right. So the next night, they don't even have the pyrotechnics out of the arena. We ain't even come on TV yet. Shane Proctor was the first bull rider, and I sent him. I'm like, and they're bucking him. And Jerome Robinson's coming, hey, we're da. I was like,
I think I remember that.
Call your boy Lambert. Tell him, careful who he gripes at.
I think I remember that because us in production are going, what the hell is happening? Like,
that was me.
Good. Congratulations. Hey, now,
Cody Lambert.
Well, now that you're on TV, you realize what a disaster that created.
Not really.
Yeah, whatever.
You got to weigh stuff out.
Yeah.
And it still to this day, it weighs out.
It, like my man Clint Atkins says, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the juice worth the squeeze?
I promise. Because I told them, they come over and drone, we can't be bucking bullshit in this. We still got to get the pyrotechs. We got 4 minutes. I'm like, call Cody. Tell him that one's for him. I won't say what else I said, but I said, shove it up his.
Yeah, I got you. I got a good imagination on that. So, well, listen, I surely wanted to bring up at the end of this conversation your kids. I respect you and Leanne. I just respect what kind of parents you are. And the good thing is, I'll tell you what means the most to me is when your kids come around, they know how to act and they're good kids. Wasey, he's a turd, but he and I get along good. For a year, I never saw a kid that wanted a little floofy Wrangler yellow stress ball as bad as that kid. Like, yeah. I'm like, Wasey, you're hauling bulls here. Your dad's JW. You go wherever you want, and you want an 18-cent stress ball. That's all he ever wanted from me.
He's stressed out.
He is. He needed something. He needed to help his anxiety.
Stressed out. He was seven,
Yeah,
8. He's stressed out.
He's stressed out. And we put a lot of pressure on those kids nowadays. So, well, listen, I love the insight. Love listening to you on TV. Mostly just like not long ago in Manchester when we walked to the arena together. I like to see you. It's always good to see you, man. So
Hey,
I appreciate your time. I know you're busy. So the people know when at the time we recorded this, you said it'd be easier if it was before the sun came up or after it went down, but too bad. I got you for an hour.
It's daylight outside. We're burning daylight.
Thanks, buddy. It's good to see you.
Yes, sir.